Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a powerful dynasty rising from, well, seemingly nowhere, establishing the very first Shia rule in a region, and then just a few decades later, vanishing from the political map,
Hmm.
yet leaving this indelible mark that resonates even centuries later. That's the extraordinary story we're diving into today. It's a vivid tale packed with unexpected turns, profound cultural shifts, and a valiant, often tragic, fight for independence against truly overwhelming odds.
What's truly fascinating here is the Chak Dynasty of Kashmir. This was a relatively short but incredibly significant period in medieval Indian history,
Right.
specifically spanning from 1561 to 1586. Despite its brevity, it completely reshaped the cultural and religious landscape of Kashmir. Their story is, well, it's a powerful reminder of how even the most fleeting reigns can leave deep, lasting legacies that defy their temporal limits.
Absolutely. And our exploration today is based on a truly fantastic stack of sources. We've pulled from rich, foundational historical accounts like Tariq-i-Hassan, Baharistanchi-Shahi, and those crucial Rajataranjini supplements that chronicle Kashmir's vibrant history right up to the Mughal conquest. But we're not stopping there. We're also weaving in essential insights from incisive modern scholarship, including the authoritative Kashmir under the sultans and, a range of academic articles that provide contemporary interpretations. It's a truly diverse set of perspectives designed to give you a comprehensive understanding.
Our mission today is to unearth the most important nuggets of knowledge from these sources, to give you that invaluable shortcut to being well-informed. We'll explore the Chaks' utterly unique origins, their dramatic, almost improbable ascent to power,
Yeah.
the distinctive features of their rule, their often overlooked cultural contributions, and ultimately the powerful forces that led to their swift decline. By the end of this deep dive, you'll walk away not just with facts, but with a deeper appreciation for this pivotal, yet often overlooked chapter in history.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The Chaks weren't always the rulers. In fact, to truly grasp the audacity of their rise, we have to go back to their very roots, which are quite distinct and set them apart from many other dynasties that held sway in the broader region. They certainly didn't just appear overnight.
And indeed, the Chaks are widely believed to have originated from the Dardic regions, specifically rugged areas like Gilgit and Dardistan. Now, this Dardic heritage is incredibly significant,
Okay.
because these were areas renowned for their distinct linguistic and cultural identities, quite separate from, say, the Indo-Aryan-speaking populations of the plains or even the Kashmiri Valley itself.
Right?
This heritage distinguished them fundamentally from later dynasties, such as the Shamirs, who were thought to be of Turkic or Persian descent. This was a foundational difference that shaped their identity and path.
So they weren't indigenous to the Kashmir Valley in the same way, but rather migrated in, almost like a distinct group settling. Can you tell us more about that initial movement and how they first established a foothold?
Precisely. Historical accounts suggest that the Chaks migrated to Kashmir during a period of significant upheaval, specifically during the reign of Suadeva, who was the last ruler of the Lohara dynasty, a period around 1301 to 1320 CE,
Right, a turbulent time.
a very turbulent time.
Uh,
Fertile ground for new groups to establish themselves. Key figures like Lankar Chak, also sometimes referred to as Shankar Chak in some chronicles, are considered direct ancestors of the ruling Chak line.
mm-hmm.
He wasn't just a migrant. He settled in the village of Tregam as a Damara chief, which is a crucial detail.
The Damara chief. What exactly does that mean in this context?
A Damara chief was essentially a powerful landed aristocrat, a local chieftain, capable of wielding significant local influence and commanding a loyal following. This position allowed him to quickly establish a formidable presence.
Got it.
Another important group, led by Hilmat Chak, settled further north in Kupwara, creating another strategic anchor point. This early establishment provided a crucial foothold, allowing them to plant deep, resilient roots in the Kashmir Valley, well before they ever conceived of ruling it themselves. It was a slow, strategic integration over centuries.
So they integrated into the Kashmiri social and political fabric, yet clearly maintained their distinct identity and strength. How did this lead to their growing prominence under the preceding Shamir dynasty, the rulers before them? It sounds like they became indispensable.
Despite their distinct origins, the Chaks proved remarkably adept at integrating into Kashmiri society and rapidly gaining influence under the Shamir dynasty, which succeeded the Loharas. The Shamirs, ever pragmatic, recognized the Chaks' formidable qualities, particularly their renowned physical prowess and strategic acumen. This made them invaluable allies and powerful military assets, especially during the frequent turbulent periods that afflicted the region.
Right.
The Shamirs weren't just patronizing them out of goodwill. They were actively bolstering their own military and administrative strength by leveraging the Chaks' unique capabilities.
Can you give us a concrete example of how they demonstrated that value early on? How did they prove their mettle in a way that truly showcased their worth?
A perfect and dramatic example is their critical role during the Mongol invasion, led by Zulchu, around 1320 CE.
Wow. Okay.
This wasn't just a minor skirmish. It was a devastating incursion that caused widespread chaos and depopulation, threatening the very fabric of Kashmiri society.
Right.
The Chaks' performance during this hugely destabilizing event, their ability to organize resistance and protect the populace where others failed, allowed them to gain the profound confidence of Kashmiri nobles and counselors alike.
So it really cemented their reputation.
It wasn't just a battle, it was a crucible that forged their reputation and laid the crucial groundwork for their elevation within the power structure. It was after this, for instance, that Shamir himself, the founder of the Shamir dynasty who ruled from 1339 to 1342 CE, appointed Lankar Chak as his Mir Bakshi, essentially his commander-in-chief.
Commander-in-chief, that's a huge role.
It was no minor appointment. It was a pivotal role at the head of the entire Kashmiri army, a direct and unequivocal recognition of their unmatched martial capabilities and their proven loyalty.
And it didn't stop there, did it? Their influence seems to have only solidified. Even after Shamir, their strategic positioning continued to bear fruit.
No, it continued to grow and deepen. Following the death of Rinchen, the first Muslim ruler of Kashmir, and the subsequent brief rule of Udanadeva, Queen Kodarani assumed the throne in the early 14th century.
Yeah.
She, too, understood the Chaks' importance and further solidified their position by appointing them to key administrative and military posts, embedding them further within the state apparatus. What's even more insightful and speaks to their long-term strategic foresight is their alignment during a critical political juncture, when Queen Kodarani was challenged by Shamir, who was then vying for full control.
Right.
The Chaks decisively sided with Shamir. Their contribution was not merely significant, it was instrumental to his victory, clearing the path for the definitive establishment of the Shamir dynasty itself.
Wow, so they played kingmaker in a way.
You could say that. This wasn't a spontaneous act. It demonstrated their calculated approach to gaining power and influence, always aligning with the emerging force.
But it wasn't a perfectly smooth, uninterrupted ascent, was it? Even with their growing power, they faced significant setbacks. It sounds like they weren't immune to the shifting sands of Kashmiri politics.
Absolutely. Despite their early prominence and strategic gains, the Chaks faced temporary setbacks that tested their resilience, particularly during the formidable reign of Sultan Zainul Abidin.
Ah, the great Sultan.
Exactly, who ruled from 1420 to 1470 CE. He's justly renowned for his incredibly strong and centralized administration, which often clashed with the more independent-minded regional powers.
Why exactly did the Chaks come into conflict with such a powerful and respected ruler? What sparked that confrontation?
The conflict arose because Pandu Chak, a prominent Chak leader at the time, led a significant rebellion against Zainul Abidin. The sources are quite clear on the grievances. They point directly to the oppressive corvée system, which was essentially unpaid, forced labor extracted from the peasantry, a deeply resented practice.
Right, forced labor.
And the despotic feudalism that burdened the common people as the primary reasons for this uprising. This rebellion itself, even if ultimately suppressed, vividly highlighted the Chakos' military prowess and their ingrained independent spirit. They were described as formidable warriors skilled in guerrilla tactics and battle strategies, capable of mounting serious disruptive challenges to even a powerful central authority.
But they didn't win that one.
No, under Zainul Abidin's exceptionally strong and centralized administration, the Chaks' influence did indeed wane temporarily. But crucially, even in this setback, their military capabilities and independent spirit were clearly established in the historical record, solidifying their reputation as a force to be reckoned with. This period of resistance, though not entirely successful, paradoxically set the stage for their later re-emergence. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the Chaks' ultimate rise to power, culminating in their own dynasty, wasn't a sudden out-of-the-blue event. It was the culmination of decades, in fact, centuries of strategic positioning,
Right.
of demonstrating remarkable resilience in the face of setbacks, and crucially, of seizing the precise right moment when opportunity presented itself amidst the decline of an older order.
And that opportune moment seems to arrive squarely with the precipitous decline of the preceding Shah dynasty. What exactly was happening there that created such a fertile vacuum for a new power to emerge?
By the mid-16th century, the once mighty Shah dynasty was in a state of terminal decline, just falling apart internally.
Really? How so?
They were plagued by a devastating combination of weak, ineffective rulers and debilitating internal strife among the nobility. The sources specifically mention Habib Shah, who was the very last Shamir Sultan,
Uh-huh.
as being widely considered incompetent and utterly devoid of genuine authority. He was, in essence, a mere puppet in the hands of various powerful, warring nobles.
So no real central control.
Pretty much vanished, which meant central authority had not just eroded but practically dissolved. This created an utterly fragmented political landscape, ripe for a decisive takeover.
So this created a profound power vacuum, a perfect storm for a group like the Chaks, who had already established themselves for generations as a formidable military and administrative force within the region. They were uniquely positioned.
Precisely. The Chaks, having maintained a significant and deeply embedded presence within the military and administration for over 2 centuries, were perfectly poised to seize this opportunity. And a crucial external factor that directly facilitated their ascent was the opportune death of Mirza Muhammad Haidar Duklat.
Ah, right. He was controlling things for a while.
He was a highly influential Turco-Mongol military general who had effectively controlled Kashmir from 1540 to 1551, ruling under considerable Mughal influence. His demise created a significant and immediate power vacuum, removing the last strong external hand. And the Chaks were swift and decisive in exploiting it.
And that's when Ghazi Shah, a name we've mentioned before, made his move. What exactly did he do?
Exactly. In 1561, Ghazi Shah, a prominent and highly ambitious Chak military commander, moved decisively and with overwhelming force. He didn't just challenge, he deposed Habib Shah outright.
Just like that.
Just like that. This bold and definitive act marked the formal beginning of the Chak dynasty's rule, transitioning Kashmir from one era to another in a single swift stroke.
So what does this all mean? This wasn't just a simple military coup, was it? It sounds like something far more complex, a historical inevitability almost, given their background.
This raises an important question, and you're absolutely right. It was far more profound than just a simple military coup. It was the powerful culmination of their long-standing and deeply embedded influence in Kashmiri politics,
Right.
an influence they had painstakingly cultivated for over 2 centuries. This ascent was bolstered significantly by their distinct Dardic heritage, which offered them a unique identity and internal cohesion, and crucially, their emerging Shia Muslim identity, which would become a defining characteristic and at times a point of contention for their rule.
Okay.
All these threads, their military might, their deep roots in the valley, their distinct cultural background, and their religious identity came together to create the conditions that enabled their remarkable ascent.
Once they were in power, what kind of rulers were the Chaks? Were they simply military men focused solely on conquest and defense in a volatile region? Or did they leave a broader legacy beyond that, perhaps even a cultural one?
That's an excellent question, and what we find is they were much more than just military figures. Let's start with Ghazi Shah, the founder and true consolidator of the dynasty.
Right, 1561 to 1563, very short reign.
Brief but critical. He truly laid the essential groundwork for everything that followed.
What were the defining hallmarks of his brief but pivotal reign? What challenges did he immediately face, and how did he address them?
Ghazi Shah, also known as Ghazi Chak, established the dynasty by forcefully overthrowing Habib Shah. His rule, though short, was primarily marked by strenuous and methodical efforts to consolidate power and address the pervasive internal dissent.
Which must have been everywhere.
Oh, rampant after the previous dynasty's decline. Historical sources describe him as a shrewd and pragmatic leader, acutely aware of the need to stabilize the sultanate and legitimize his new rule.
Okay.
He immediately focused on addressing the rampant financial mismanagement and administrative inefficiencies that had plagued the state under the weak Shah emirs. This wasn't just lip service. He appointed high-level, trustworthy governors to ensure justice across the land and worked diligently to replenish the depleted treasury, which had suffered immensely due to years of political instability and even environmental challenges like famines. He knew stability required economic recovery.
So he was proactive in trying to fix the internal problems. But a new ruler, especially one who rose through military might, must have faced significant opposition from those who lost power or from rival factions. How did he navigate that immediate challenge?
Indeed, Ghazi Shah faced significant opposition from rival nobles almost immediately upon taking the throne. Figures like Nusrat Khan, Yousuf Chak, who, importantly, was the son of Riji Chak.
Ah, a rival Chak faction.
Exactly, a prominent figure from a different, often rival faction of the Chaks and Shankar Malik, all conspired against him, attempting to destabilize his nascent rule.
So what do you do?
In a highly strategic and decisive move, Ghazi Shah didn't just suppress them, he detained these conspirators, sending a clear message, and then used diplomacy very effectively to prevent their powerful kinsmen from uniting against him in a larger, more formidable rebellion.
Clever. A mix of force and diplomacy.
Exactly. He understood the delicate balance. His ability to navigate these complex political challenges and consolidate power in such a short time demonstrated remarkable political acumen, even though his health began to deteriorate in his final years, which somewhat weakened the dynasty's still nascent position. His ability to stabilize Kashmir, however briefly, set a crucial precedent.
So a strong start, laying a pragmatic foundation, but a very brief reign. His brother, Hussein Shah Chak, took over in 1563. What was his time on the throne like, especially with the constant external pressures looming?
Hussein Shah Chak succeeded his brother in 1563 and ruled until 1570. His reign, while still relatively short, was profoundly marked by persistent efforts to strengthen the dynasty's hold on Kashmir, especially amidst the ongoing and ever-increasing threats from the burgeoning Mughal Empire.
Right, the Mughals were always there, weren't they?
Always looming. The Chaks' military prowess, as we've already touched upon, was a consistent theme throughout their history, long before they actually ascended to the throne. Sources, for instance, specifically mention their successful resistance against Mughal invasions. Notably, their decisive defeat of Mughal forces at Athwajan and Srinagar back in 1531. This pre-dynasty battle highlights the Chak long-standing military capability and their reputation as fierce defenders of Kashmir, a reputation Hussein Shah would continue to uphold.
Beyond military matters, given the instability, did Hussein Shah manage to contribute culturally, or was his reign entirely focused on defense?
He certainly did. Despite the constant pressures, Hussein Shah was a notable patron of architecture, commissioning several significant projects that left a lasting mark.
Oh, really? Like what?
A prime example is a beautiful garden he ordered to be constructed near the shrine of Muinuddin Naqshbandi at Nawada. This wasn't just a patch of green. It was thoughtfully designed, adorned with elegant fountains, and meticulously fed by the Lashama Canal,
Wow.
showcasing a sophisticated appreciation for aesthetics and urban planning. These projects, though perhaps limited in scale by the constant political instability and looming Mughal threats, vividly reflected the Chaks' commitment to enhancing Kashmir's cultural and aesthetic landscape. It shows that even rulers under siege valued beauty and public amenity.
That's fascinating. What happened to him? Why did his reign end?
His reign ultimately ended with his abdication in 1570. The sources suggest it was possibly influenced by deteriorating health or perhaps mounting internal pressures, which then paved the way for his brother, Ali Shah, to assume the throne.
Then Ali Shah Chak continued the struggle from 1570 to 1579, right? How did his rule differ from his predecessors, particularly in navigating internal dynamics?
Ali Shah Chak continued the dynasty's efforts to maintain Kashmir's sovereignty against relentless Mughal encroachments. His reign, however, was particularly notable for significant internal conflicts,
More internal trouble.
which underscores just how fragile the dynasty's internal cohesion could be, even within their own ruling family. A very dramatic and destabilizing example was the assassination of his own brother, Aiba Khan.
His own brother?
Yes, by Ali Shah's son, Yousuf.
Wow. That's intense.
That act of fratricide severely strained family relations and created deep rifts within the ruling elite. It was a stark reminder of the ruthless nature of dynastic politics.
That's quite a family drama. How did he manage such a volatile situation, especially with his own son involved in such a dark act?
Despite this intense internal strife and the deep personal betrayal, Ali Shah made the remarkably pragmatic, if difficult, decision to appoint Yousuf as his heir apparent.
Really? After killing his uncle?
Yes. This was likely an attempt to prevent further succession disputes and to project an image of stability, though tensions naturally persisted and required careful mediation by respected figures like Sayyid Mubarak, who was a former Wazir-i-Azam, a high-ranking minister. Ali Shah's administration focused primarily on consolidating power and, crucially, on maintaining the dynasty's unique Shia identity, which was becoming increasingly central to their legitimacy. While he faced continuous challenges from rival nobles and persistent external threats, his rule was relatively stable compared to the tumultuous beginnings.
Okay.
laying more solid groundwork for his son, Yousuf Shah Chak, to inherit. It was a period of consolidation, albeit under significant internal stress.
This is where we meet a truly fascinating character, someone who embodies both the heights of their culture and the tragic fate of the dynasty. Yousuf Shah Chak. He's often considered the last independent Muslim ruler of Kashmir, correct? A figure of immense cultural significance.
That's absolutely right. Yousuf Shah Chak's reign, which ran from 1578 to 1579, and then again from 1580 to 1586.
So there was an interruption.
Yes, it was indeed interrupted by a rebellion that temporarily deposed him. But he managed to regain the throne with the strong support of loyal nobles and through successful military campaigns, demonstrating his resilience. He truly stands out as a multifaceted ruler. Renowned not only for his military prowess, but equally for his profound cultural patronage, his innovative administrative reforms, and his deep sense of justice. He was a true Renaissance man for Kashmir.
Tell us more about his cultural side. He sounds like a true visionary, someone who actively fostered the arts.
He absolutely was. Yousuf Shah Chak was a significant and enthusiastic patron of the arts, with a particular love for music, poetry, and architecture. He wasn't merely a patron, he was an accomplished poet himself.
Oh, interesting.
Composing beautifully in both Persian and Kashmiri, demonstrating his versatility and erudition. His court became a vibrant intellectual hub, actively attracting scholars, poets, and musicians from across the region, turning Srinagar into a center of cultural flourishing.
Wow.
His profound love for music led to a legendary moment that truly illustrates his depth. During his later exile in the Mughal court, he impressed none other than Emperor Akbar.
The emperor himself.
Yes, by subtly correcting a musical note played by the renowned musician Tansen, a feat that speaks volumes about his expertise and refined ear.
That's incredible. Correcting Tansen.
Akbar, famously a connoisseur himself, was reportedly astonished and deeply impressed by Yusuf's discerning knowledge. His patronage also extended to grand architectural projects, including the construction of a magnificent garden with 13 ascending terraces stretching from Fateh Dal all the way to Dal Hassan Yar.
13 terraces.
This elaborate garden featured a wide variety of exquisite flowers and fruit trees, showcasing the dynasty's commitment to enriching Kashmir's aesthetic landscape and creating spaces of beauty and tranquility.
And his personal life is also quite legendary, isn't it? Particularly his romantic and intellectual relationship with the poetess Haba Khatun.
Yeah.
This isn't just a footnote, it seems central to his story.
It is indeed, and it's far more than a simple romance. His personal life became iconic, especially his relationship with the poetess Haba Khatun, whose works remain a cornerstone of Kashmiri literature to this day, celebrated for their beauty, emotional depth, and often melancholic insight. What's particularly insightful is her often overlooked role in his political life. Her fierce opposition to Yusuf's negotiations with the Mughal Emperor Akbar underscored her remarkable political foresight.
She advised against negotiating with Akbar.
She did. She keenly sensed the Mughal emperor's true expansionist intentions, which, as history would tragically prove, were to annex Kashmir entirely, not just to acknowledge his superiority. Her warnings, sadly, went unheeded.
Wow. That adds another layer entirely. Beyond the arts and his personal life, what about his administrative and judicial efforts? Did he continue the reforms started by Ghazi Shah? And how did he distinguish his rule in terms of governance?
Yes, he certainly did, and in fact, he distinguished his rule through several progressive administrative reforms that directly impacted the lives of ordinary Kashmiris. Yousuf Shah Chak was widely noted for his keen sense of justice and his sincere efforts to promote public welfare, often going against long-standing oppressive practices. A crucial reform he implemented was prohibiting soldiers from extracting unpaid labor, known as corvée, from peasants.
Ah, that forced labor again. He banned it.
He did. This practice had been prevalent and deeply oppressive under earlier rulers, burdening the common people and causing widespread resentment. By abolishing it, he significantly alleviated a major economic strain on the peasantry, demonstrating a genuine concern for his subjects.
That's significant.
He also abolished the practice of collecting zakat, a form of charity tax, specifically from boatmen known as hanjis.
The boatmen. Why them specifically?
The hanjis were a crucial and often overlooked segment of Kashmir's economy, responsible for transporting goods and people across the valley's intricate network of waterways. Relieving them of this tax significantly improved their livelihoods and contributed to the overall economic well-being of the region. These measures truly set his rule apart and demonstrated a genuine commitment to public welfare.
And he was a formidable military leader as well, capable of defending his realm.
He was. His military campaigns were marked by strategic victories, even against internal rebellions. For example, he successfully defeated rebels at Kandahar and Sopore,
Yeah.
employing clever and effective tactics like destroying the Sopore bridge to thwart enemy advances. He was a skilled commander who could lead his forces effectively, maintaining order and security within his domain.
Despite all these strengths, his cultural vision, his administrative reforms, his military capabilities, it seems the pressure from the Mughal Empire was just too relentless. What finally led to his downfall, and what were the consequences?
Despite his considerable efforts and capabilities, Yousuf Shah faced relentless and ultimately overwhelming pressure from the formidable Mughal Empire, which was at the height of its power under Emperor Akbar.
Right.
In 1586, seeking to secure his throne and perhaps hoping for an alliance or at least a peaceful resolution to the constant Mughal demands, he made the fateful decision to acknowledge Mughal superiority and journey to Akbar's court.
The very thing Haba Khatun warned against.
Exactly. This decision, as Haba Khatun had so presciently forewarned, tragically led directly to his betrayal and subsequent exile. Instead of being granted the security he sought, Akbar's forces, once he was in their custody, betrayed Yousuf,
Unbelievable.
imprisoning him and exiling him to a remote village in Bihar, a place that even today is tellingly called Kashmir Chak within Biswak.
Exiled to Bihar.
He died far from his beloved Kashmir in Odisha in 1592, and his body was buried in Biswak, where his tomb remains a poignant historical site, a testament to a ruler whose vision was ultimately overwhelmed by imperial might.
And so, the full weight of the Mughal Empire then fell upon his son, Yakub Shah Chak, who bravely stepped onto the throne as the very last Chak ruler. How did he fare in this final desperate stand for Kashmiri independence?
Yakub Shah Chak, Yusuf's son, reigned briefly from 1586 to 1589, inheriting a kingdom already under immense pressure after his father's exile. He was a truly formidable warrior in his own right, and continued his father's fierce, unyielding resistance against Mughal annexation. His short reign was almost entirely defined by these desperate efforts to maintain Kashmir's independence. Notably, he also attempted to unite his beleaguered realm by implementing a more inclusive approach to governance,
How so?
granting special status to minorities within his realm, a pragmatic move to secure broader loyalty in the face of existential threats.
He sounds like he put up a valiant fight, a last gasp of defiance.
He absolutely did. Yakub's resistance against Akbar's forces was truly remarkable, especially considering the overwhelming odds. He notably defeated Mughal armies not once, but twice.
Twice, even outnumbered.
Yes, even with a significantly smaller force. These were tactical victories, perhaps leveraging the difficult Kashmiri terrain or unexpected maneuvers that showcased the enduring martial prowess of the Chaks, even at the precipice of defeat.
But it wasn't enough.
No. However, the internal dissent that continued to plague the dynasty, the lingering sectarian conflicts we touched on earlier, coupled with the overwhelming and relentless might of the Mughal Empire, proved to be insurmountable. This led to his inevitable surrender on August 8, 1589.
The end of the line.
While he formally surrendered Kashmir, Yakub famously continued to claim the title of Sultan until his death in 1593, a death that was shrouded in suspicion and possibly due to poisoning. A common fate for deposed rulers in such turbulent times. With his surrender, Kashmir was fully annexed by the Mughal Empire, definitively ending the Chak Dynasty's rule and, more broadly, Kashmir's long period of independence under its native rulers. This raises an important question. What truly set the Chaks apart during their relatively short time in power, beyond their obvious military prowess and their dramatic rise and fall? What were the unique characteristics that defined their rule and differentiated them from other dynasties of the time?
Good point. Let's delve into their administrative reforms and governance approach first. Were they just maintaining the status quo inherited from the Shamirs, or did they introduce truly new ideas that impacted the daily lives of Kashmirs?
The Chak dynasty did introduce several administrative reforms, specifically aimed at stabilizing Kashmir and demonstrably improving governance, particularly after the turbulent period preceding their rise. Unlike some of their predecessors, the Chaks genuinely focused on curbing corruption within the administration,
Okay.
implementing measures to ensure greater fiscal responsibility and integrity, Crucially, they established a grievance redressal mechanism for the populace.
A way for people to complain.
Exactly. This wasn't merely symbolic, it provided ordinary people with a formal channel to voice their complaints against officials or injustices, a significant step towards ensuring a greater degree of justice and accountability for the common people.
That sounds important.
They also maintained strict oversight of the treasury and state possessions, striving for meticulous fiscal responsibility at a time when resources were often plundered.
That sounds remarkably progressive for the time, especially in a region so prone to conflict. But how much do we really know about the specifics of their administrative structure, given the passage of time?
That's a challenge for historians, and it points to a gap in our source material. The sources indicate that the paucity of detailed administrative treaties from their period makes it difficult to fully reconstruct the comprehensive scope of their organizational structure.
Right.
Unlike, say, the Mughals who produced extensive records. However, we do know their governance style was characterized by a hierarchical structure, with key roles assigned to trusted nobles and military commanders. The rulers themselves kept a very close eye on state affairs, actively participating in governance. Their well-planned royal engagements were described as a hallmark of their governance. These weren't just ceremonial appearances, they were often deliberate tours to outlying regions.
Getting out among the people.
Exactly. Allowing the rulers to directly hear petitions, assess local conditions, and ensure that justice was being administered effectively across the land, reinforcing a vital sense of connection between the throne and the people. And as we discussed earlier with Yousuf Shah, their clear emphasis on justice and public welfare was evident in groundbreaking measures like prohibiting soldiers from extracting unpaid labor from peasants.
Right, the corvée ban.
A practice that had been widespread and oppressive under earlier rulers. This was a clear break from past abuses, designed to rebuild trust in the new ruling order.
One of the most distinctive features you mentioned earlier, and a truly unique aspect of their rule, was their Shia Muslim identity. How did this impact Kashmir, which had a different religious landscape before them?
This truly was their most distinctive and transformative feature. The Chak dynasty was not just a Shia dynasty, it was the very first Shia dynasty to govern any part of northern India,
The first.
marking a groundbreaking religious shift. The Chak rulers actively and openly patronized Shia Islam, overtly encouraging its spread in public practice in Kashmir, a region that had previously been dominated by Sunni Islam and various long-standing Hindu traditions.
Oh, a major change.
A monumental shift that fundamentally altered the religious landscape of the region, actively fostering the growth of Shia communities that exist powerfully to this day, and embedding new religious practices and institutions into the Kashmiri cultural fabric.
But this distinct religious identity also, somewhat ironically, created internal divisions within the dynasty itself, didn't it? It sounds like a complex and at times fractured picture.
It absolutely did, and this is a crucial nuance often overlooked. While the ruling Chaks promoted Shia Islam, a significant segment of the Chak tribe itself adhered to Sunni Islam, or the Nurbakhshia Sufi order.
Nurbakhshia, what's that?
The Nurbakhshia, while rooted in Shi'ism, held certain doctrines that differed on key points of jurisprudence and leadership succession from mainstream Shia practices, creating theological and political rifts.
Okay, so not all Chaks were unified on this.
No. This meant that figures like Reji Chak and Shams Chak, for instance, often represented the Sunni faction or Nurbakhshia adherents, creating genuine friction with Qazi Shah, Ali Shah, and Yousuf Shah Chak, who leaned more distinctly towards mainstream Shia traditions.
Right.
These internal sectarian divisions weren't just minor disagreements. They occasionally led to significant and destabilizing conflicts within the dynasty, undoubtedly weakening their cohesion and making them more vulnerable, especially when formidable external threats like the Mughals loomed large.
So it was a source of weakness, too.
These internal fault lines often proved as debilitating as any external invasion. Despite these persistent internal challenges, the Chaks' clear promotion of Shia Islam left an undeniable and lasting cultural impact, with many Shia practices and institutions taking firm root in Kashmir during their relatively short rule, shaping the region's unique religious tapestry.
So, despite all the political instability, the internal struggles, and constant external threats, they managed to leave a significant cultural and architectural legacy. What are some of the most striking examples of that enduring contribution?
Despite their relatively short reign and constant political instability, the Chaks did indeed leave a remarkably rich and lasting architectural, literary, and artistic legacy. Architecturally, we have Hussein Shah Chak's beautiful garden near the shrine of Moinuddin Naqshbandi.
Right, the one with the fountains.
Exactly. a testament to his aesthetic vision. Then, of course, Yousuf Shah Chak's magnificent 13-terraced garden, which we discussed, demonstrated an incredible appreciation for beauty, landscape design, and public spaces, even under duress. Beyond these grand projects, practical urban infrastructure also benefited. The Haba Kadal Bridge in Srinagar, a crucial thoroughfare, is notably attributed to the Chak period.
Still standing.
Well, rebuilt over time, but the site and name connect back. It remains a tangible testament to their contributions to urban infrastructure and civil engineering. These projects, though often limited in scale by the constant Mughal threats and the immense pressures of their rule, collectively reflected the dynasty's profound appreciation for aesthetics, a commitment to public welfare, and a desire to build something lasting.
And in terms of literary and artistic patronage, Yousuf Shah Chak was a poet himself, as we mentioned, and his court sounds like it was a real hub of creativity.
Precisely. Yousuf Shah Chak's court was a vibrant and dynamic hub of literary and artistic activity, attracting the brightest minds and most talented artists. His personal support for poets and musicians, combined with his own significant contributions to Persian and Kashmiri poetry, truly enriched Kashmir's cultural heritage, creating a fertile ground for artistic expression. And we absolutely cannot overstate the importance of the works of Haba Khatun.
Her poetry really endures.
It does. Her poetry, which beautifully blends poignant themes of love, profound loss, and even quiet resistance against the encroaching political reality, remains a vital and deeply beloved part of Kashmiri literary tradition. Her verses are still sung and recited today, serving as a powerful cultural touchstone, demonstrating how the artistic legacy of this dynasty transcended its political fate.
The Chak dynasty, despite its unique strengths, its distinct identity, and its formidable leaders, ultimately couldn't withstand the relentless tide of history. So what finally brought them down? Was it solely the Mughals, or were there deeper, more complex issues at play that sealed their fate?
It was definitely a devastating combination of factors, a perfect storm that overwhelmed them. The Chak dynasty's decline was driven by both crippling internal divisions and relentless external pressures that simply grew too strong to resist.
Let's start with those internal weaknesses you mentioned. How exactly did those play a role in their downfall? It sounds like they were fighting themselves as much as anyone else.
The internal weaknesses were absolutely critical and proved to be an Achilles heel. The sectarian conflicts, particularly between the distinct Sunni and Shia factions within the Chak tribe itself,
Right, the divisions we talked about.
constantly eroded and fragmented the dynasty's unity. Nobles like Reji Chak and Shams Chak frequently aligned with Sunni interests, creating deep and often irreconcilable rifts within the ruling elite. These weren't mere theological debates. They translated into political rivalries, power struggles, and outright rebellions that consumed valuable resources and attention.
So they couldn't present a united front.
Exactly. This internal disunity meant they were never truly a monolithic force, constantly squabbling amongst themselves, which made them profoundly more vulnerable when a united front was most needed. It was a self-inflicted wound that bled the dynasty dry from within.
And on top of that, they were facing the growing, inexorable might of the Mughal Empire, which was rapidly expanding across India.
Exactly. This was the formidable and ultimately insurmountable external threat. The Mughals, under Emperors Babur and later, most powerfully Akbar, were consistently and strategically seeking to expand their influence and annex territories across northern India.
And Kashmir was a prize target.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With its stunning beauty, strategic location guarding the northern passes, and fertile lands, it was a prime and coveted target. While the Chaks had demonstrated significant military prowess in earlier periods, for example, the formidable Kaji Chak and his brothers successfully defeated Mughal forces as early as 1527 and again in 1531.
Right, they had proven they could fight.
Proving their martial capabilities. By the 1580s, the sheer scale and sophistication of Akbar's diplomatic and military strategies proved simply overwhelming. He wasn't just sending armies, he was employing a combination of political intrigue, economic pressure, and overwhelming force that few regional powers could withstand.
So Yousuf Shah's decision to negotiate with Akbar, that pilgrimage to the Mughal court, was truly the pivotal moment, wasn't it? The beginning of the end.
It truly was. The pivotal moment came with Yousuf Shah's fateful decision to journey to Akbar's court and negotiate, a choice he made, as we discussed, against the prescient and deeply felt advice of his beloved poetess, Haba Khatun.
Such a tragic choice in hindsight.
This decision, unfortunately, led directly to his betrayal, his imprisonment, and his eventual exile. It essentially paved the way, almost irresistibly, for his son, Yakub Shah's brief and ultimately valiant but doomed resistance. The trap was set and sprung.
And that's how Kashmir, after centuries of fierce independence, was finally and definitively annexed into the vast Mughal Empire.
Yes. The Mughal conquest of Kashmir was completed between 1586 and 1589, culminating with Akbar's forces fully annexing the region after Yakub Shah's surrender. The Chaks' profound inability to unite effectively against the overwhelming and relentless Mughal might, coupled with their, at times, misguided reliance on external alliances that often proved treacherous, ultimately sealed their fate. The annexation marked a profound and irreversible turning point. It ended Kashmir's long-cherished independence under native rulers, ushering in an entirely new era of Mughal governance that would last for centuries. If we connect this to the bigger picture, even a relatively short-lived dynasty like the Chaks, whose political power lasted barely a quarter century, leaves indelible ripples through time. Their impact wasn't erased with their political demise.
Right.
It shaped the very cultural and historical DNA of Kashmir.
That's a crucial point. So, beyond the political timeline, what would you say is their most profound and lasting cultural impact on Kashmir? What echoes of their rule can still be felt today?
Their patronage of Shia Islam, their active support for the arts, and their architectural contributions profoundly enriched Kashmir's already vibrant cultural tapestry. The beautiful gardens they commissioned, like Hussein Shah's at Nawada or Yousuf Shah's 13-terraced marvel,
Yeah.
the functional yet aesthetically pleasing bridges like Haba Kadal, and the literary works created during their period all remain emblematic of their commitment to cultural development, even amidst the constant political challenges they faced. But perhaps even more enduringly, Yousuf Shah Chak's tragic life story and his legendary association with the poetess Haba Khatun
Their story.
have become deeply ingrained in Kashmiri folklore. Their tale isn't just history. It symbolizes themes of profound love, valiant resistance, and deep cultural pride. Their story continues to resonate powerfully, woven into the very fabric of Kashmiri identity even today.
So they represent a truly significant historical bridge then, connecting different eras in Kashmir's long narrative.
Absolutely. The Chak Dynasty represents a crucial and transformative transitional phase in Kashmir's history. They bridge the gap between the waning Shah Mir era and the subsequent centuries-long Mughal rule. Their distinct Shia identity, being the first of its kind in northern India, and their unique Dardic origins truly distinguish them from other regional dynasties, highlighting the incredible diversity and multicultural layers of Kashmir's ruling elite throughout its history. Their fierce, often desperate resistance against Mughal annexation, though ultimately unsuccessful, also powerfully underscores the formidable challenges faced by smaller independent kingdoms when confronted by the ambitious, centralizing forces of vast imperial expansions. They were a powerful testament to the struggle for regional autonomy.
And how does this historical legacy continue to resonate in contemporary Kashmir? Is there ongoing interest in their story, or is it largely confined to academic history books?
There absolutely is. The legacy of the Chak Dynasty continues to resonate quite strongly in contemporary Kashmir, and indeed beyond. For instance, the very existence of the tomb of Yousuf Shah Chak in Biswak, Bihar,
Right, in Bihar.
serves as a poignant historical reminder of Kashmir's complex past and its deep, often overlooked historical connections to other regions of India. There are ongoing efforts to preserve this site, championed by descendants like Yasir Khan Chak,
Oh, interesting. Descendants are involved.
which clearly reflects a continued and active popular interest in the dynasty's history and heritage. Moreover, the Chak story inherently informs broader discussions on Kashmir's identity, its historical autonomy, and its rich cultural heritage, especially in the context of modern geopolitical tensions and the enduring quest for self-determination.
So it's still relevant.
It's not just ancient history. It's a living part of an ongoing narrative about identity and belonging.
But studying this period must come with its own unique set of challenges for historians, given how long ago it was and the very nature of the historical sources available. It sounds like a complex puzzle to piece together.
You're entirely right. It's definitely a complex puzzle. The study of the Chak Dynasty is indeed complicated by several significant challenges in historical sourcing. There's a notable paucity of detailed administrative records from their time.
Right, not like the Mughals.
Exactly. Forcing historians to rely heavily on chronicles, which, while invaluable, may reflect inherent biases. For example, some chronicles, like those by Sunni or Hindu chroniclers such as Janarasha, might present a particular viewpoint, shaping their narrative based on their own affiliations or perspectives.
So you have to read between the lines.
Very much so. Similarly, the internal sectarian divisions within the Chaks themselves and their complex and often fraught interactions with the powerful Mughal forces require incredibly careful interpretation to avoid oversimplification. Modern historians emphasize the critical need to meticulously cross-reference multiple sources to compare and contrast perspectives in order to construct the most balanced and nuanced narrative possible. It's a bit like detective work, piecing together fragments from different angles, always aware of the gaps and potential slants.
Okay, we've truly unpacked quite a bit today. From their distinct Dardic origins and their groundbreaking Shia rule, to their valiant, if ultimately tragic, stand against the overwhelming might of the Mughals, the Chaks truly left an indelible, multifaceted mark on Kashmir's rich history.
Indeed, the Chak dynasty, though politically short-lived, played a pivotal and transformative role in shaping Kashmir's medieval history. Their administrative reforms, their vibrant cultural patronage, and their significant architectural contributions, all while facing immense pressure from within and from the colossal Mughal Empire, truly showcase their unique position and enduring significance in the region's complex past.
They really packed a lot into those few
They
decades.
absolutely did. They were a force that even briefly profoundly changed the course of Kashmiri history.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, beyond the history books? What's the bigger, more provocative takeaway from the fascinating story of the Chaks?
This raises an important question for you to consider. How do short-lived dynasties, often overshadowed by larger, more enduring empires, manage to leave such an indelible and enduring mark on the cultural and historical identity of a region? How do they shape its folklore, its artistic expressions, and even its modern political and cultural discussions centuries after their formal political power has completely waned? The Chaks offer a truly compelling case study in that very phenomenon, reminding us that influence is not always measured in centuries, but often in the depth of legacy.